Hey, welcome to this weird video where I'm going to be doing a live commentary over some time-lapse footage of this new game I'm working on. It's the one I've been posting on Twitter about a lot and kind of really into right now, which, matters a lot to me. Just like whatever I'm motivated and interested in working on is kind of what gets done. But this game is, I don't know, it's really exciting to make for me for some reason, so I've just been kind of grinding it out, and it's super fun so far, and I'm really excited for it to actually be like a whole game and do all this stuff. So you can see here I'm making the run cycle for the new Marksman character who I'm working on right now. The current game only has one sealer, as I call him, the arbalist, who uses kind of like crossbow and a dagger. Is very mobile and kind of a weird character. Definitely a weird character. Not a good first character. The Marksman will probably be a better first character because it's going to be pretty straightforward, but high skill ceiling in the sense that it heavily rewards good positioning and like decision making, because you have to spend a long time charging your arrow shots to get the most out of them, but you have the ability to place area denial, slow caltrops, and like backflip and target high health enemies. So here I'm making the animation for knocking an arrow, and it's going to end basically on the arrow pull back frame and just sit there while you charge. And then I'm going to be making a release animation, and that's basically how the programming will handle this kind of attack, is that it plays the knock animation and then starts charging until you release or you've reached maximum charge, at which point it plays this animation right here and creates the projectile. I'm going to be basing all the characters kind of off the same general player object, right? They're all going to be children of the parent object for the player. And there are a couple ways I could handle doing that. One would be to have scripts in GameMaker, which are like functions that run all the code for each class that's like necessary for that class. And the other would be to have inherited objects and have individual objects for each class, with most of the actions being the same from the parent. And I went with that method because I like the organization of having everything an individual object. So the power went out and decided it'd be a good time to take a break, so here I am making some Earl Grey tea, my favorite tea. It's a nice downpour coming down, really raining heavily. It's one of my favorite things to do is drink some tea in the rain. It's just super relaxing, very good for creative energy. Coming back to the project. So here I'm actually working on programming now. I've created the Marksman object, instanced out a new version of the parent, and it's actually just a duplicate of the arbalist object. So I'm going to be changing a lot of stuff to like removing arbalist code, essentially, just because they had some things that are convenient for handling attacks and stuff. So here I'm actually testing it. I haven't changed anything combat-wise, but I've changed the run animation and the idle and the jump frame, so you can see everything's working. You can jump around, run around, and it looks good. So that's step one. You can see I've just used some abilities. I just turned into the arbalist briefly because, again, all I did was change the animations. So pull up the design sheet, look at the attacks, just to remember what I'm doing. And so just loaded in the sprite data for the charging and releasing, and I'm changing the attack state here. So I just deleted a ton of code from the arbalist, that whole section. It's like, oh, don't need it, there it goes. And then basically having the game check what animation you're in, right? So when you enter the attack state, if you're in the knock arrow animation, play it out until the animation is over, at which point stay on the final frame, which is the full arrow pulled back frame, and then increase your charge level. And your charge level increases by a flat amount plus your attack speed bonus. And that's kind of the whole idea of the character, is that attack speed increases the speed at which your arrow charges instead of increasing the speed at which your hitboxes and like your animations play out, which is how attack speed would normally affect other classes with like melee attacks. So once you've charged, or like once you've charged fully or release the attack button, you'll enter the second attack state, which is the release state. So change your sprite, and then basically in your case, you know, checks your sprite. And now we're going to be doing the release. So it plays out the release animation just for a little bit until you've reached the frame where everything blows up essentially, and the bow is like super cool looking, and then it's going to spawn the arrow object. And we need to apply a bunch of properties to the arrow object relative to like the player stats and stuff, you know, like damage, penetration amount, speed, and all that changes based on how much you charged it. So initially here I had the damage of the arrow between 1 and 3 times your physical damage amount, but I actually increased the 3 times up to 5 times because it was like, it takes a long time to charge. It was kind of underwhelming, the DPS relative to the other class. And I have this nice script of constants that basically just contains all of the like damage ratio data. So I can just, anytime I want to go in and tweak a number, make a balance change, it's all in the same place, and it's nice to be able to like see everything together. So here I'm actually making a new script to handle hitbox creation, because the way I was doing it previously wasn't like modular in the way that I wanted it to be, and I think I'm going to go back and go to the Arbalist and kind of update their hitbox creation stuff to be with this new hitbox script that I made. You know, going forward, if I'm really going to be adding a bunch of different characters to this game, you know, I want everything to be modular and easy to change, and running off the same code, so I don't have to go to all these different places to change the code. I mean, that's kind of like what happened with Waveland. It's just stuff you learn as you kind of grow as a programmer. So here I'm just kind of testing damage and stuff, and I'll show you right here. I'm going to be spawning in a bunch of items. I'll actually show you some gameplay of this new attack. And the Marksman here has a bunch of different abilities which aren't implemented yet. Like, so you can't do the backflip, caltrops, throw. You can't do the Hunter's Mark. You can't do your attack speed steroid ability, which are the other 3 abilities. But the basic attack's in, and you can see charging it releases, and if you just charge it for a long time, you'll get pretty big damage and it penetrates. And if you just do a little bit, it will only hit a few targets and do less damage. You're pretty immobile while charging. Right now, actually, in this, you're completely immobile, but I did add the ability to strafe a little bit and change the direction, so you can do some cool stuff like jump in the air and turn around and then charge it. So there you can see it just penetrated all those bats by charging for a while. It's a pretty big damage hit. But when you get swarmed, you know, it's difficult to get away, especially because I haven't implemented the movement option yet. The backflip caltrops throw, which should get you out of harm's way and slow enemies so you can charge more shots. But I spawned in a ton of attack speed items and just kind of went to town. It's totally broken, and that's the goal of the characters. If you find a bunch of attack speed or farm it with your Hunter's Mark ability, you become incredibly broken. Well, that's going to about do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this was interesting. I don't know. I've never done anything like this before, so we'll see. See you next time.